You've probably heard of this book, right? How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's been a massive bestseller since like 1937, and there's a simple reason why. It tackles the single biggest problem we all face in our lives. You know, Dale Carnegie, he didn't just write a book. It's more like he wrote an operating manual for humanity. And the whole thing, believe it or not, starts with just one number.
85%. That's it. Just 85%. Now, what if I told you that this one number represents how much of your financial success has absolutely nothing to do with your technical skill, your qualifications, your degrees, your expertise? Nope. So, what in the world is left?
Well, it's something called human engineering. And this isn't just a guess. The Carnegie Foundation actually did the research and found that your hard job skills, they only account for about 15% of your success. Just 15. The other massive 85%, that's all down to your personality and your ability to lead people. So it's really not just what you know, it's all about how you deal with people. And Carnegie, he put it so simply. He said, dealing with people is probably the biggest problem you face. And think about it, he's right. It doesn't matter if you're a CEO, an engineer, or a parent trying to get your kids to eat their vegetables. He saw that literally everyone struggles with this, and so he basically dedicated his entire life to cracking the code.
So, here's what we're going to do. We're going to follow Carnegie's journey. We'll start with that whole 85% secret and his quest for answers. Then we're going to dive deep into 3 of his most powerful core principles. First, why criticism is just futile. Second, this deep craving for appreciation that we all have. And third, what it really takes to get someone to want to do something.
Okay, so how did one guy figure all this out? Well, it actually started with a pretty personal realization. He was teaching public speaking classes, right? But he quickly figured out that there was a much deeper need his students had. And honestly, it was one he struggled with himself.
So he did what anyone would do. He went looking for a book, a practical guide to human relations. He searched high and low for a simple, working handbook on the subject, and you know what he found? Zip. Nada. Nothing. The book he needed, the book we all needed, it just didn't exist. So he realized, well, I guess I have to write it myself.
And this is so cool. Carnegie basically turned his classes into the world's first laboratory for human relationships. I mean, this guy did his homework. He devoured biographies of all the greats, from Caesar to Edison. He read over 100 biographies of Teddy Roosevelt alone. He interviewed legends like Marconi and Franklin D. Roosevelt. But here's the most important part. He had his students go out and test every single idea in their own lives, at work, at home, and then report back on what actually worked. So you see, this book isn't just some dusty old theory. It was literally forged in the fires of the real world.
All right, so his first big breakthrough, it came from a really unlikely source. Violent criminals. Seriously. And through them, he learned that the absolute fastest way to make an enemy is also one of the most common mistakes that pretty much all of us make every single day. Get this. Under my coat is a weary heart, but a kind one. One that would do nobody any harm. Sounds like a pretty decent person, right? Maybe a little misunderstood? Well, those are the actual words of a guy named Two Gun Crowley, a notorious cop killer. And he wrote that note while he was literally cornered in an apartment, having a massive shootout with about 100 police officers. I mean, the disconnect there is just staggering, isn't it? In his own mind, he was this kind, weary-hearted guy just defending himself. But the reality? He'd murdered a police officer in cold blood. And right up to the very end, to the electric chair, Crowley blamed himself for absolutely nothing.
And this wasn't just a one-off thing. Think about Al Capone, public enemy number 1, right? Well, he saw himself as get this, a public benefactor. He genuinely believed he was doing a public service, bringing people excitement and fun, and all he got in return was abuse and being misunderstood. Wild. So you got to think about it. If hardened criminals like Capone and Crowley don't blame themselves for anything, what chance do you have with the everyday people in your life? This is when the light bulb went off for Carnegie. He realized that 99 times out of 100, people do not criticize themselves, no matter how wrong they might be. And that led him to his very first fundamental principle. Don't criticize, condemn, or complain. Why? Because it's completely futile. It just puts people on the defensive, it wounds their pride, and all it does is breed resentment. Okay, so if criticism is a dead end, what's the alternative? What does work? Well, Carnegie's second big insight is basically the other side of that coin. He uncovered this fundamental human hunger, a craving that, if you can satisfy it in others, gives you almost unbelievable influence. The famous psychologist William James didn't just call it a wish or a desire. He called it a craving, like an urgent, deep, unfaltering hunger to be appreciated. We all have this deep need to feel important, to feel valued. And Carnegie figured out that the rare person who can genuinely satisfy that hunger in other people, well, that person holds the key to just about everything. Loyalty, motivation, you name it.
But, and this is a huge but, Carnegie gives a very stark warning. This is not about flattery. There is a massive difference. Appreciation is sincere. It comes from the heart. Flattery, on the other hand, is just a cheap counterfeit. It's selfish. And as Carnegie so perfectly put it, it comes from the teeth out. People can spot a fake a mile away, and believe me, it will always, always backfire.
So that brings us right to principle number 2. Give honest and sincere appreciation. I love this quote from the steel magnate Charles Schwab. He said his single greatest asset wasn't money or factories. It was his ability to arouse enthusiasm in people. And he did that through appreciation and encouragement. His motto was to be hearty in your approbation and lavish in your praise. What a great line.
Okay, so let's recap. No criticism? Check. More appreciation? Check. But how do you actually get someone to do something you want them to do? This is where Carnegie's third technique comes in, and it's really the secret to motivation.
You know, Henry Ford absolutely nailed it. He said if there is any one secret of success, it lies in the ability to get the other person's point of view and see things from that person's angle as well as from your own. It's all about stopping and thinking about what they want, not just what you want. Because let's be honest, every single thing a person does is because they themselves want something. So the only way to influence them is to talk about what they want. There's this great little story that just perfectly illustrates this. The famous philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson and his son were trying to get a calf into the barn. They were pushing, they were pulling, grunting and groaning, and the calf wouldn't budge. Why? Because they were only thinking about what they wanted. Then their housemate comes out. She doesn't push, she doesn't pull, she just thinks for a second about what the calf might want. And what does she do? She puts her finger in its mouth, lets it suck on it like it would from its mother, and gently leads it right into the barn. Brilliant.
And that right there is principle number 3. Arouse in the other person an eager want. It's so simple, yet so profound. Before you ask anyone for anything, just pause. Ask yourself, how can I make this person want to do it? If you can successfully frame what you need in terms of their desires, you're pretty much unstoppable. So let's pull it all together. Don't criticize, give sincere appreciation, and arouse an eager want in the other person. You see, when you put these 3 together, they're not just a handful of techniques or tricks. They really do become a whole new way of life. And Carnegie was adamant about this. These are not manipulative tricks. You can't just pretend. It won't work. To truly apply these principles, it takes a sincere change of heart. I'm talking a genuine, fundamental shift in how you approach every single human interaction. It's not a tactic you pull out when you need something. It's a philosophy, a completely new way of living.
Because at the end of the day, the real power of these ideas isn't in just knowing them, right? It's in actually using them. So think about your day today or tomorrow. What's one conversation you have coming up, maybe a difficult one, that you could completely transform just by applying these simple principles, starting right now?